I'm Max Horseman. I'm a principal consultant here at Trident, and I'm joined by Nitin Pillai. He's the VP of Engineering at BLACKBIRD.AI and also one of the nicest guys in cybersecurity. How are you, Nitin?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Look, I guess for the audience that aren't familiar with BLACKBIRD.AI, I think it would be helpful to start with a bit of an introduction.
Definitely. So what BLACKBIRD.AI actually does is that we protect organizations from narrative attacks that are created by misinformation and disinformation. So what do you actually call as a narrative attack, right? So it can be anything that creates a perception about a place, a person, or a thing that can actually cause like financial and reputational harm, right? And for folks who have actually been following like the World Economic Forum news and things like that, in Jan 2024, in the latest World Economic Forum meeting that happens in Davos, they actually stated that misinformation and disinformation is the number one threat to human society in the next few years because of all the elections that's going on all over the world. This is like the perfect forum and the perfect time for threat actors that actually use like the latest like Gen AI tools and other mechanisms like social media and things like that. They can spread so much false propaganda to overturn governments and to cause so much harm to like organizations. And that's where we actually come in. What we actually do is that we have an AI platform that actually precisely helps organizations like, by detecting all these kind of misinformation and disinformation threats, and we give that in the form of narrative intelligence to organizations.
That's awesome. And you can just see how relevant it is to the world we live in today. Like you said, the election year, just crazy. And yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, being from England, we had kind of the Euros recently, and there was a lot of kind of manipulated videos going around with that.
Yep.
So yeah, totally get the use for it. Just in terms of kind of the journey so far, as well as what's in store for the future, I'm keen to kind of learn about that.
Yeah, so I'll dig in a little bit into how we actually help organizations do all these things, right? How do we help organizations detect threats from misinformation and disinformation? So we have what we call as an adaptable Gen AI platform, and we use 5 signals in helping organizations detect misinformation. The first thing is, if you give us like a large corpus of data from like social media feeds, and like we also actually go around like the deep dark web and the news, we are able to ingest massive amounts of information from all these like hundreds of different data sources. And our AI platform is able to do something. The first signal is something we call as like narrative discovery. We are able to surface like high impact, high risk narratives that are being talked among from all the threat actors, all the influencers, and things like that. And we are able to actually surface it to the users using a risk scoring mechanism that we actually use internally at Blackbird. So that's the first signal. The second thing is we are able to also pinpoint with really good precision on who are the main influencers, who are the main threat actors driving a certain narrative or a certain false propaganda. And we are able to give context around that too. And the third one is what we call as networks, right? So we are able to identify which networks these kind of narratives are actually infecting, and what are the information flow patterns around these networks, and how people are actually talking about which narrative in which network, right? So we are able to pinpoint that. The fourth one, which is really interesting, what we call as anomalous signal, is we are able to identify bot-like behavior. We are able to identify synthetic amplification of certain narratives, and we are able to actually direct our users towards like, identification of bots in like the social networks, right? Because many times these days, these influencers and these threat actors, they are very sophisticated. They're using Gen AI tooling, they're using bot automation to actually amplify whatever they are trying to say. And they know exactly which network to actually target, right, for like maximal impact. So we are able to actually identify bot-like behavior and like any kind of synthetic manipulation of information, right? We are able to identify that. And finally, we do like large scale network like graph analysis. And the reason we do that is that we have the signal that we call as cohorts, which are, you can think of it as like-minded communities where a narrative is actually spreading, right? And how does a narrative that starts in a certain cohort, how is it actually spreading into like some different cohorts? So we are able to actually identify in which cohorts, and we can like pretty much apply a lot of like risk profiles like anti-vaxxers or anti-Trump or Russian state supporters, like those kind of cohorts, right? And custom defined profiles that customers actually ask us. We can actually on demand create these risk profiles, and we can apply it to that to actually create the right cohorts and identify which cohorts are these informations and these narratives actually spreading the most. So these are the 5 signals that we actually use in our AI platform to help organizations and to give them narrative intelligence in identifying which ones are causing them like reputational and financial damage.
Wow. No, thanks for that detailed kind of overview. And then just in terms of Blackbird's kind of plans for Black Hat, I'm kind of keen to understand if people want to kind of find you and learn more, how do they do that?
So there's a really interesting talk actually from one of the senior analysts from NATO at Black Hat. I highly recommend actually finding us there. So NATO is going to be having this. Let me give you the date and the time for that. It's on August 7th from 2:30 to 3 p.m. in Jasmine AE Level 3. And the presenter's name is Frankie Segerman. Super interesting and very timely talk on foreign information manipulation and interference. So we call it like the disinformation 2.0. And they're using actually our narrative intelligence AI platform in identifying these threats. So one thing more which I want to say is that along with the main AI platform that we call as Constellation, we have a lot of other toolings that we are actually building right now. One of the main ones being Compass, which we call as the context layer for the internet. So the way we envision Compass is you think of any claim, right? You want to verify any kind of claim. You want to actually, you're looking through, say, a social media feed, or you're looking through news. These days, how do you even know what you're actually viewing or what you're seeing is true or false? It takes a lot of time for a human analyst to go and context check and verify any information that they are actually viewing online, especially if they actually want to look at that information and they want to make strategic decisions, right? So we actually have a tool right now called Compass by BLACKBIRD.AI, which we call as the context layer for the internet. So using this tool is completely multimodal. It can analyze threats in text, memes, images, audio, and video. All you need to do is either point us to the URL for a social media feed or the URL for a news channel, or you can actually submit a claim like, is the Eiffel Tower on fire or something like that. And in real time, we are able to actually mine information from the internet, and we are able to contextualize everything. We are able to actually really direct you towards, is this actually misinformation or disinformation, or is this like real news? And we are planning on exposing this by very low friction integration endpoints via APIs to a lot of platforms. Think about, say, if you're watching like Twitter and you want to make some decisions based on Twitter, and these days using like deepfake technologies, you can easily create a video of someone actually talking while they are actually not even actually saying something of that sort at all, right? So using a tool like Compass, all you got to do is just point it to that video URL. We will be able to analyze everything in real time, and we will be able to give you the entire context around what they are saying, the propaganda or the narrative, if it's actually true or false. And if it's false, then why we think it's false. So we have a lot of corroboration and attribution of sources there too.
Awesome. And what we're going to do is we're going to post a link under the video. I understand that you guys don't have a booth at Black Hat. So if people want to find you, my understanding is that they can go on the website and book a meeting with the team that way.
Yes, so we do have a conference room and a meeting room booked for potential customers and for people who are interested in knowing more about Blackbird. So all I would say is you can just go to blackbird.ai, book a meeting at Black Hat, and it will actually direct them to, we will actually get to know, and we can actually communicate with them on where to meet us.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put that link under the video, and the NATO talk sounds incredibly interesting. So I'm sure a lot of people want to join for that. Look, I appreciate you joining us, Nitin. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Same here. Thank you for having me, Max.